That gets me every time. What is up, Rally Town fam? Welcome to the show. We've got a good one here for you tonight. Rob, thanks for coming in and liking the video already. Appreciate it, brother. Tonight, with us, as always, Corey, myself, and we have a special guest this evening, Mr. Aaron Mehling. Corey and Aaron did a little podcasting back in college. Cleveland Browns fan, huge personality.
Nice.
And, yeah,
Ryan, thanks for liking the stream, buddy.
We're gonna be talking a little bit about Cleveland and all the big moves in the NFL.
Anything happening in the NFL with Cleveland lately?
I've been asleep for the last 2 weeks. Did something happen?
No. So, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and tell the community a little bit about yourself and how you got into podcasting with Corey?
Yeah, I mean, born and raised Clevelander. So, pretty big passionate fan base around here, between, Browns, Cavs, and, Guardians now, Indians prior. Me and Corey were random college roommates in college. It's probably the only time in my life that being incredibly lazy paid off, because we both forgot to sign up for rooms until like the last minute. Yeah. I get a Facebook message over the summer that's just like, "Hey, are you like cool?" And I think I said something like, I'm not like a murderer or something.
I'm not a serial killer, if that's what you mean. Yeah.
And we've been best buds ever since. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we did like a weekly installment for the BG radio station called The Battle of Ohio. Obviously Corey, as everyone knows, big Bengals fan. I'm a big Browns fan. So it was kind of a natural fit. We talked about, obviously all the NFL, but it was, fairly focused on that. And then me and my buddy Chris Stewart did a podcast called Stadium Must Heard, which was Cleveland focused. Did a little Ohio State stuff, but I've always enjoyed it. Always loved talking sports. I appreciate you guys having me on. I really love what you guys are doing, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Aaron had me on a couple of times, like when it was Bengals week for the Browns.
Yeah,
he'd had me on, or like before the draft. And one of my biggest blunders, I've got two big QB blunders going into the draft. One is Josh Rosen. I said he is going to be the best after 5 years. I'm wrong. And Chris also asked me at 10 when the Bengals drafted. I believe it was John Ross who the Bengals, or was it Billy Price? It was one of the two.
I want to say it was Price at that point.
Yeah, Chris had asked me if at 10 or 11, whichever the Bengals were at, if the Bengals had take Dwayne Haskins. What do you think? And I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, I'm all in.
Good thing that didn't happen.
I was pretty adamantly against Josh Allen in the Rosen Mayfield draft. So
you wanted Sam Darnold.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we all, eating a little crow for that draft for sure.
Go figure. We're not perfect.
No way. There's a reason my GM resumes never get returned.
Yeah, they haven't called me yet.
Fair enough. Brian, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. If you guys are just getting in here, please make sure you drop that like, hit the share button. We're gonna be
Will, thanks for liking the video, buddy.
What up, Will? We got a lot to talk about Cleveland tonight. Obviously Deshaun Watson coming in a Browns uniform under the most guaranteed money that I think we have all seen in our lifetime, at least to one player in one contract and that short of a time frame. What are your thoughts as a Cleveland fan? What does this do for the team? I did just hear that the courts dropped all of the charges against him, so it sounds like it's looking like he's going to play. So what does this mean for Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, you got to assume they knew all of that going into it. You don't give up, 3 first-round picks plus without, kind of having, obviously after the first criminal indictment got declined, that's when all the other teams started jumping in. I was pretty adamantly against the move. I was kind of.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to hear me say tonight from a football perspective, and I don't want that to take away from the human aspect of this, because I think that's a big part of it.
Jeff, thanks for liking the stream, man.
From a football perspective, yeah, obviously, he's a top end quarterback in the league. I'm not going to say he's even top 5. I think that gets thrown around a lot. I think it's kind of like a tiered system. He's not that tier 1, but I think he's that tier 2 type quarterback. And, they're really in the history of the NFL, those type of players at the age of 26 entering their prime, they don't become available like this. So again, from a pure football perspective, I don't think they gave up too much. Now let's, talk about the elephant in the room and, 22 allegations. I think from Browns fans' perspective, we've since, 99 and getting beaten by Big Ben for all those years. I mean, as a fan base, the only thing we had to hold on to was, making fun of Steelers fans for all of his allegations. And it, frankly, as a Browns fan, it does come across a little bit hypocritical to me. And I can say that truthfully, but when you have been a Browns fan your whole life, one player isn't going to change that. I'm not rushing out to buy a Deshaun Watson jersey. We've seen tons of NFL players come under heavy scrutiny for the law all over. Heck, you can even look at Tyreek Hill today, and I'm not comparing the two allegations by any means, but the point being is the NFL is a business, and the business is always going to move on. So once the criminal aspect of it went away, it's tough, right? Like I said, from a football perspective,
it's a touchy situation.
Yeah, it really, really is. So I think there's a lot of Browns fans that are excited. I think there's a lot of, Browns fans that you could have even called like Baker Mayfield fans, if you will, that are jumping ship. And that's fine. I think
I wanted to ask you about that. Because that's, obviously, Todd, thanks for liking the stream. Will, shout out for sharing the stream, buddy. I appreciate it. If you guys are checking out right now, go ahead and share this. We're getting real tonight on Line to Gain. But Aaron, thanks for joining us again, man. But yeah. I obviously Twitter is an echo chamber, right? That you follow things that you enjoy, thus they tend to reflect what you already think and just further ingrain. That's social media in general, right? Further ingraining what you already believe. And so I have seen a lot of all right, looking for a new team kind of things. My golden retriever puppy is trying to join us here, but I've seen a lot of I'm jumping ship. I need a new team, things like that. Is that really the general consensus, or am I kind of getting a distorted view?
I would say that's a distorted view. I think Cleveland Browns fans are a very, very passionate group. I mean, think of all that, we've stuck through. And again, I hate to say it like that because I understand how real the allegations are and how frankly heinous they are. I read through, a huge chunk of it. I don't believe it was up to 22 allegations when I read through it at that point, but I think it was at 16 or 17 when there was the outline of all those. And that was even before.
Still double digits.
Right. Yeah. You're not, one is too many in my opinion.
Right.
But point being is I read through that. And at that time, this was, around preseason, I believe, because he had requested the trade and then all these allegations started, kind of coming to light. Right. And this was before the season had started. And Baker Mayfield, in our opinion, had kind of cemented himself as at least, being a guy. So I didn't really view us as a team that was in the market for a quarterback. And, it's amazing how a year, can change all of that.
Shit, 2 years ago, you and I know have had conversations, at least via text, saying, hey, you've got your guy. You've got the guy. You can build a Super Bowl team around this.
Yeah.
And the narrative really quickly changed. I honestly kind of feel like Baker is victim of that, almost to fault of injury. I feel like how much do you think the injury played into the fact that he's not going to be your quarterback?
Do you want to get into we can get into the Baker stuff of it now.
We can get for it. Yeah. We can bounce around. Yeah.
Yeah. So, everybody's looking at what you put on tape, right? So, should he have probably sat and taken time off for the injury? Yeah, absolutely. And you can appreciate a guy trying to go out there and gut it out for his team. But at the end of the day, he was ineffective. So, for his longevity in the NFL, he kind of really screwed himself because had he gone down in week 2 and, let's go all the way back to week 1 of last year where the Browns just barely lost to the Chiefs. It was all right, everyone's shaking hands going off the field. Hey, we'll see him again. Hey, we'll see him in the playoffs kind of thing.
Yeah.
If he had gone down the week after that, which is when he got injured and just said, I'm sorry guys, I can't gut it through. He would have put that together with the end of 2020 and obviously the first playoff win, and nobody's questioning anything
At all.
going into this
Nope.
year.
He's your quarterback going to the next season.
He's your quarterback. So, I think Baker has a personality that a lot of people that love football can kind of gravitate towards, because it's like, hey, I'm kind of like that Brett Favre, like, and I'm not comparing their games by any means, but just that mentality of, I'm a gunslinger. I'll get down in the mud. I'll bark at the guys and everything like that. But, frankly, I think he kind of burned too many bridges in Cleveland, even just this last couple weeks. And again, from a pure, I keep messing that up. From a pure football perspective, he did not earn the right to not be replaced, or for the Browns to go out and look to upgrade the position. I think there's 7, 8, 9, 10 guys in the league that are even above teams looking at not upgrading. Baker Mayfield is not one of those guys, but he carries himself like he's Aaron Rodgers, and he's just not.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look 2 years ago. He was a top 10 quarterback
for half of the season. Yeah. I mean, and you can talk all about coaches coming and going. You start with Hugh Jackson, you go to Greg Williams, the disgusting Freddie Kitchens situation. Finally, it seems like there is a competent person at the helm, and Kevin Stefanski. Browns finally get a playoff win in Pittsburgh, for that matter.
Yeah. And they hadn't won a game in Pittsburgh in a very long time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I kind of started souring on him. And again, keep in mind, Thursday of last week, he had said, I want to be traded, because the Browns had even met just to try to get Deshaun. And it was like, hey, the Browns are out. I think the part we didn't touch on at the beginning there was how shocking it was to have the Schefter notification on. And I'm like, fucking what?
Yeah. It was nuts. It was nuts. I mean, I'm sitting here at my office and I get this thing. It's like, Deshaun Watson has said he wants to go to the Cleveland Browns. I'm like, what? So what does that mean, right? You had 3 teams that were really in it. He had already told Carolina that they were out. Well, he had first told Cleveland that they were out. They were the first one out. Then he tells Carolina that they're out. So it's down to Atlanta and New Orleans as the 2 options. Carolina took no as an answer and moved on. Cleveland didn't. They didn't take no as an answer. They continued to push, and they went in and got the guy that they think can help their football team the most. Now, what comes along with that is what I'm gathering from what Aaron's saying. Obviously has a close living in Cleveland, being a Cleveland fan, has a better pulse gauge on the Cleveland fan base, I would say, than anybody on this podcast right now. Is that those that are loudest are not the majority, right? Those that are loudest echoing about the fact that Deshaun Watson is a bad guy, or that the Cleveland Browns are going to lose fans, or that there will be no one there in First Energy Stadium when the season gets started because of this. That's just not the truth. No. At the end of the day, wins cure all. They literally cure everything in this business. And I find it hard to think that Deshaun Watson is not better suited to do that than Baker. The other question that needs to be answered, has this team elsewhere regressed to a point where the difference is null and void, right? The Browns have made some adjustments due to cap space in terms of weapons, in terms of offensive line, which was a strength for the Browns going into the season prior to injury. Yeah, Browns got pretty beat up on the injury side of things for the O-line, but going into the season, you're like, this is a top 5 O-line in the league. Treader has been released. Obviously, Landry's gone. OBJ gone mid-season. Amari Cooper, a great addition. Izzy Odell, we'll see. We'll see what he looks like in this offense.
What you're seeing Devontae Adams or Hill had gone for, and I'm not, obviously Cooper isn't on that level, but they moved back 30 spots for Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a wash. Yeah, it was a great trade.
Absolutely. Ted's coming with a comment. He said, "I'm sorry, we are all fanatics, and at times we are biased about players on our teams. But I have to disagree at the point that Baker can win a team a Super Bowl. He just doesn't have that it. Is he even a top 10 QB in this league? Well, statistically speaking, at the end of the 2020 season, he was a top 10 QB. But is he better than 10 quarterbacks in the league right now? I don't know.
No, and I think I think that point is, whether you want to say Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco, whatever quarterback you want to put, is Baker was a quarterback that you needed everybody around him to be perfect for the Browns to have that Super Bowl opportunity. And when you have guys like Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, that offensive line, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, that's the kind of team that can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I agree. I'm sorry, I missed the name there, but I do agree with your commenter that, he's not the guy that's going to carry your team like a Mahomes or maybe even like a Josh Allen or hell, even like a Stafford we just saw. So I don't disagree with the comment, but I think there is and to go across sports, it's kind of like that Detroit Pistons type winning where it's the sum of all parts
Right.
rather than a guy who's covering up for the mistakes.
It's a great example.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think in any world where we're arguing that Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson, because I just don't think that's true. But
here's the thing, though. Deshaun Watson hasn't played football in 18 months. There's something to be said about that. He hasn't been hit. There's a difference between game shape and in shape. Colin Kaepernick is in shape. Colin Kaepernick is not in game shape. It's similarly to when you come back from an injury. It's the first game back from an injury is not the hardest game at all. It's the second game after you come back from an injury, because it's not necessarily about getting prepped for that first game. Ryan, appreciate you liking the stream, buddy. Welcome. It's the recovery time from that first game going into the second game that is really the thing that you can't work out enough for that, right? There's nothing to mock being hit by, Trey Hendrickson running full speed. There's nothing to mock that, right? That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's really going to be the thing for Deshaun and how long does that? It's Deshaun Watson is the kind of athlete that he'll get there. It's how long does it take for him to get back to that NFL game speed?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of transition with Cleveland. I mean, Tez came in and said he definitely had the team around him. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I projected the Browns to win that division last year.
Everybody did.
So did Vegas.
The Browns were the best team in the
actually
division they're going in.
Now that you say that right now, Vegas is predicting it right now. Actually, Vegas has the Browns have the highest odds out of the AFC North to win the Super Bowl.
Wow,
that's money. That's money.
Is that the same as the odds for winning the division, though? And the reason I ask that is because I'm almost pricing in that there's going to be at least a 6-game suspension.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is notorious for. I mean, you don't need to be criminally charged for the NFL to say
we're going to smack you with something.
We're going to smack you with something. Detrimental to the league. That's
negative press. You brought negative press. You put yourself in a position to have this happen.
Exactly. So, I'm kind of factoring that, and I mean, we saw, the Browns shipped out Keenum, which made sense. Brought in a guy like Brissett. I know they had Keenum before because you want to have a guy that emulates your
You wanted Tyrod, didn't you?
No,
I love Tyrod. Tyrod.
No, I think Tyrod's a different style. I think Brissett, although obviously not as good, I think he does play similarly to the way that Deshaun does, and I think that what you want is your backup to emulate. Look at Huntley for the Ravens. When Lamar went out, you could have had a better. Maybe, well, I know he played great, but my point is, there could have been maybe a better traditional style quarterback that could have been your backup.
Sure.
But you want somebody to come in that keeps that engine running and not lose the game.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Point. So, no, and I think that's the style that Stefanski wants to run in Cleveland. He wants to, I mean, you'd be stupid not to lean on the two-headed monster that is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. To say that Amari Cooper and DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, that's enough to be a air it out offense. That's not true. They're going to lean on the. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not sure if you saw the reports, but I mean, there is a strong possibility that Landry actually does come back now.
Yeah, and it was almost a cut and restructure type of thing.
Yeah, and I almost think that kind of goes back to the Baker thing. Landry was fine leaving until there's a new person at quarterback. I think I think a lot of people soured on Baker, especially from a receiver standpoint, because he's a guy who, and I'm not even going to say that this is a bad thing, but he's a guy who's like, I got, 25 receptions to 8 different guys. And from a receiver, you want that 5, 6, 7 reception game for 100 yards, 80 yards and a touchdown or something. Right. Hell, even Odell had tweeted out something in reference to, I won't rule it out coming back. So I think that even goes to the fact that I think there was a lot more wrong with Baker in Cleveland than was initially reported until this Deshaun stuff came out.
And what? It's really interesting. This conversation has started from Deshaun, and I think we're all at the level, and I think a lot of the Rally Tell Sports people are at the level of fanhood to where we get the move. Like, it makes sense.
Sure.
You don't have to like it, but you understand why the Browns did it.
Yeah.
Because one, they're in a conference, let alone a division, that is loaded with quarterbacks. Don't even look at the division. Look at the conference as a whole. It is loaded. The AFC is it's the conference, but will the Super Bowl champ come out of the NFC? Maybe, because I would say
they're still good teams.
Yeah, they're 2 out of the top 5 teams are in the NFC, ladies and gentlemen, the Bucks and the Rams, the last 2 Super Bowl champs, right? So, Taz, that one's for you, buddy. I think the Browns understood what, they understood the assignment, and they went out and got a quarterback, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. A couple of comments rolling in here. Sorry to cut you off here. Tez was mirroring. Game shape is definitely different, but game shape for a QB is also different. Arm fatigue for the quarterback is the most important type of fatigue. So that's an interesting
just
comment.
Consistently throwing the football is what he's talking about.
Yeah. You just got to think how long does it take to get warmed up if you're an MLB pitcher? You gotta go out there and get your throws in.
Fair.
Well,
for those of you wondering, I'm not drinking just soda. We got Woodford on deck for you, ladies and gentlemen.
What do you got in the glass over there?
I'm drinking some Weller's. I was able to locate it on a shelf and
keeping it classy tonight.
Yeah, when you find it, you grab it.
Yeah,
that's what she's
one of those.
Yeah,
it is what she said.
Well, you know what though, I did just want to make a quick comment on what you're talking about with the AFC. I think the thing that changed everything, and I have a crap load of respect for Andrew Berry, the Browns GM. I think he's
probably top 5 in the league, honestly.
I really, really believe he is at the top of his class, and I'm not going to say he's the best, or I'm not even going to say top 5. He hasn't been doing it for long enough.
That belongs to Chris Ballard in Indianapolis.
Yeah. He certainly does a really good job, but I think the thing that changed everything was that Chiefs-Bills game in the playoffs. If you do not have a top quarterback in the league, you do not stand a chance. And to go back to your commenters' point earlier about Baker not being able to do that, if you look at the league right now, and then even, of course, Mahomes, Burrow for the AFC Championship and Burrow, Stafford, you really do need one of those guys. And I think that's where the league is right now. Look at all the quarterback shuffling we've seen this offseason. Yeah. Wilson to Denver. Obviously Rodgers getting the deal that he did. I really think that Chiefs-Bills game changed the landscape of the NFL and the urgency to get one of those guys.
Absolutely.
100%.
Let's get to these comments here. Will said Chase was out with COVID and did all right, I guess. Pros stay ready for the most part. I think that was just to get on top of the game shape comment. Todd said, I love to hear from a Browns fan perspective. How do you maintain loyalty when the franchise hasn't been successful since its reinstatement? Frequent coaching changes, top picks foiled, etc.
You're born into it. You really are. Like there's just this mentality around here, and it's Cleveland's a pretty blue collar city as well, where it's I don't want to be one of those people that is I'm a Cowboys fan this week, I'm a Chiefs fan this week, I'm gonna ride or die for this team because once statistically speaking, they have to get there at some point. And I don't know if I'm talking out of my ass or not, but that juice is going to be so much sweeter going through all of the crap that we did. And I can even tell you, one of the greatest days of my life is when the Cavs won the championship. I can tell you all of Cleveland felt that way because, it had been 50 plus years since we had even, we've gotten close so many times before, whether it had been the 90s Indians, obviously, When we had LeBron the first time, the 80s Browns, unfortunately, Elway getting in the way constantly. It's you root for the team that's closest to you. And also I would just tell you that Cleveland's a very close-knit community. And even when we're at our worst, we're at our worst together. And that's kind of the vibe that you get around the city. But it's a great question.
It's somebody that a lot of my really good friends are from Cleveland, and I love to root against their sports franchises. I have never had a bad time in that city.
Yeah.
And that's thankful, to all the great people that have guided me. Earl, thank you for dropping by and liking the stream, buddy.
What up, Earl?
That is Earl with a Who Day, as I'm giving props to Cleveland. But I've never had a bad time, and that's due to all the people that have guided me. All my friends that have shown me a good time in that city. And the one thing I will say is they're very proud. I think Clevelanders are very proud of their city, and they're proud to be from Cleveland. They're proud of their team, and I think that resonates. Not just that's not unique to Cleveland, but it's unique for Clevelanders, right? And I think a lot of different cities can resonate with that. Cincinnatians can resonate with that. Cincinnati is overlooked constantly, but as a Cincinnati fan, you are very proud of being from Cincinnati, right? Same with Detroit. I think Pittsburgh has the exact same feeling. There are tons of these blue collar, Rust Belt, if you will, type cities. Caroline, thanks for liking the stream. Caroline. They just have that mentality, and whether it's blue collar, Midwest, whatever it is, it's embodied, and it's we're the same. We're cut from the same cloth, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Brian coming in with a question. Corey, I'll pass this to you.
Sure.
Do the Bengals bring any veterans back, in your guys' opinion? And who brings the most value if they aren't bringing a veteran back?
So you have to think about who's available to bring back, and when you start thinking about guys that they haven't re-signed yet, that you have the ability to bring back. Obviously, Larry Ogunjobi pops off the chart for me as somebody. Obviously, Aaron, all about him coming from Cleveland, but the Bengals signing him in free agency coming into this 2021 season. Absolutely splashed in Cincinnati, had an amazing season. That's why he got the contract that he was supposedly getting in Chicago. Failed a physical due to the broken foot. I would like to think. We don't know why the physical was failed, but probably due to that foot injury that he sustained during the Raiders playoff game in the wild card round. Just initially, I would say Larry Ogunjobi. If that's not kind of where we're going with that question, I would say Quentin Spain, left guard, is the next guy that I would bring back to keep some continuity together. I think there's a lot that doesn't get stated about continuity in the offensive line, particularly when you're looking at that left guard, left tackle position. If you can, obviously the Bengals went through and retooled that offensive line. They did an amazing job. There's one blaring gap on that team. There's one, and that's a great problem to have, right? Obviously, they could improve at corner. Eli Apple isn't your hey, let's stick Eli Apple out there on OBJ. Right. We don't want to do that.
He's not going to lock anybody up.
He's a depth player, right? He's not your lockdown corner, and that's okay to admit that. But the most blaring gap, obviously, Rick Ebah dropping a like,
Let's go.
But the most blaring gap is the offensive line. So continuity, if you can keep Jonah and Quentin together and let Quentin Spain and Jackson Carman, our rookie that we drafted out of Clemson in the second round last year, if you can let them battle it out in camp, battle it out through preseason as to who's going to earn that starting spot, I think there's a lot to be said about that. They went through and got Alex Kappa. They got guy from New England, starts with a K, Ted Camus or something like that. And they went out and Ted Karras, and they got La'el Collins. I mean, the Bengals went from a bottom third offensive line to presumably at least average, at least middle of the road, at least. And that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Earl coming in with Who Day. Tez said, "Who are they?"
Well, actually, I was going to say, I mean, from an outsider's perspective or from a division rival's perspective, one of the reasons I wasn't insanely worried about the Bengals last year, which I'll gladly admit I was wrong about, was it didn't seem like you guys were willing to spend the money in free agency, where last year and this year you guys more so are. It's hard enough to draft in the NFL. Sometimes you got to plug those holes. And one of the things I love about the NFL compared to the NBA is free agency comes before the draft.
Yeah.
And right now you're kind of seeing that tail end of free agency where there's still some big name guys out there. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is still out there, and I'm naming Browns guys here, but obviously Jarvis Landry and guys like that they're not your top guys, but I'm just talking about those middle of the pack free agents are kind of waiting now to see how the draft shakes out, to see where's the best spot for them to go. And I think what the Bengals, have done in the last just couple years here, even just the last two, is, it finally seems like they're willing to spend some money on free agency. And of course, why wouldn't you, when it seems like you have a window open where when you're paying a elite quarterback and an elite wide receiver minimum amount of money, your window's wide open.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Will came in and said the Browns are only a team today because the fans are so intense. I hope we beat them twice this year, but their fans are solid.
I mean, they swept the Bengals last year.
Let's go, Will.
They swept the Bengals. I mean,
Will's a Bengals fan, by the way, FYI.
Yeah, Bengals are. Joe Burrow actually is 0-3 against the Browns. That needs to be noted. Obviously, the first two were his rookie year. First two was his rookie year. Then that absolute blowout that I was actually sitting in Aaron's basement amongst 5 other Browns fans for. Yeah, that was ugly. Aaron actually also spanked my ass in fantasy that week too. So
that was fun. I had a great time.
Two kicks to the manhood right there.
Yeah, that was great.
Earl requested a singing only stream. Fun fact: I believe both of these gentlemen play the guitar.
Yes.
So
yeah, we actually were in a band in college called Drunk in the Kitchen. It was fantastic.
Because we constantly found ourselves at the end of the night just drunk in the kitchen having just life talks.
Yeah, just talking about shit.
Elbows on the counter.
That's how
just doing one of these. Yeah, good time.
Playing a couple chords.
Love it.
Ryan Carpenter, thanks for joining us tonight. Bengals are going to trade some draft picks for Xavier Howard. Thoughts?
I've heard this thrown around a lot, and I'm just curious where the motivation is for that. I think that they can. I mean, there's still the ability to improve at that position through the draft and through free agency without trading. And Duke Tobin, like the Bengals, if there's one thing that about the Bengals that hasn't been disproven over the last couple of seasons, they don't trade draft picks, especially premium draft picks. So sure, if you're talking about like a 5th and a 6th round, sure. But I think the Bengals value players that they note are skilled, that they can get for cheap. Like guys that can make an immediate impact, that they can get for cheap, i.e. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, right? Jonah Williams. The list continues to go on. Sam Hubbard was a 2nd round pick. These guys that obviously he has an extension under his belt at this point, but guys that they can get at an immediate impact for a cheap deal is something that they aren't going to pass up.
Absolutely. I'm gonna get to Will.
Stay in the chat, dude. It's beautiful. Stay in the chat. I love it.
Tez came in and said, "Bob, the wifey said, can she get a oh yeah?" I told her it's not that kind of stream.
Yep, it is.
Rally Tau fam, give it up one time for a oh yeah. There you go, Miss Tez. Will came in. I'm not sure I've ever thought about a backup kicker, knowing how close games have been.
Wow.
Any concern if McPherson gets hurt for the Bengals, and if we should have a solid backup?
I mean, Aaron, I'm gonna let you jump in on this too, but like kickers are like toilet paper, dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they are. But when you got 3-ply, you don't throw it away.
Sure. Yeah, you're gonna lock that down. You're gonna make sure he's comfortable and happy, and he's not going anywhere. Like Justin Tucker, you're making sure he's a Raven until you put him in a box, right?
Right.
Same thing with Evan McPherson. Like,
right. But I can also unroll a crap load of 1-ply and fold it over itself and make it work.
Exactly.
So I'm not spending a lot of money on. I mean, there's not enough spots on your roster
to house two.
To house two. It's just,
you need 12 offensive linemen, if not 15 offensive linemen, more than you need 2 kickers. Right.
If anything, I'd go the other way on that, and I'm waiting for the guy who can become the kicker punter combo and save a roster spot.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Jeff coming in, not an
Pat
Eli Apple
McAfee.
fan at all, but he doesn't get enough credit. Highest PFF man-to-man coverage in the league. Stephon Gilmore to the Bengals, question mark.
Hey, so the first part of that with Eli Apple, I'll address that. I mean, obviously, Aaron, from an outside perspective, the perception is Eli Apple sucks, right?
Yeah, Swiss cheese.
Yeah, that's the perception. It's just factually incorrect, though. Eli Apple.
No, I know.
Yeah, in terms of man coverage, Eli Apple has one of the best grades as a corner. And you know what's interesting is like these guys that come to the Bengals under Lou Anarumo in the last couple of seasons are almost resurrecting their careers. Like Von Bell, safety from the Saints, resurrecting his career. BJ Hill, we traded Billy Price's fucking corpse and got BJ Hill and a 7th round pick. And BJ Hill I think BJ Hill was the priority of the front office over Larry Ogunjobi due to the fact that he was way more impactful to that team. I won't say DJ Reader. DJ Reader had a great season. I won't say Trey Hendrickson. He obviously had a fantastic season prior to coming to the Bengals. But Eli Apple belongs in that conversation. Chidobe Awuzie belongs in that conversation. Mike Hilton belongs in that conversation. All of these veterans that they have brought in have just thrived in this scheme, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I will champion Eli Apple as a solid corner. Is he a guy that you're going to put out there as your number one? No, that's Cheeto right now. Chidobe Awuzie is the Bengals' number one corner. You need to draft or trade for something, and that's why Stephon Gilmore's name gets tossed around a lot more. Obviously, Aaron indicated it. The Bengals are in that window. It's now. It's now,
Yeah.
Or when the fuck are you doing it, right? Next
Never.
3 seasons, this is your time to win a Super Bowl. This is it.
It's-
And
I mean, look at the Chargers. Look at the Chargers
Yeah.
with
Yep.
with Herbert. When
they
you
dicked
have
around and
when you have a rookie quarterback that you're not paying yet, that is your
Okay.
window. But to the reverse, or to the other side of that too, is you guys seem to have struck gold with Chase as well. And those are, whether it be quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, or defensive end, those are your premium positions. And if you can get elite guys at those positions on their rookie deal, you know, the cap doesn't exist.
Take advantage of it.
The cap doesn't exist.
No, it's not real. It's not
Absolutely.
real. We talked about it a few times on the show. Look what the Colts just did. They absolutely fucked their cap. Well, actually, that's not true. They got the Falcons to eat $40 million on Matt Ryan's contract before they traded for him. But they also, right when they drafted Matt Ryan, restructured his deal into, I think it was like an $18 million signing bonus, freeing up $6 million in cap or something like that. And it's not a real thing. You can restructure deals consistently to get it to where that player is getting that cash now as a signing bonus, quote unquote, and it just frees up your cap space. So it's an illusion. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some breaking news from the NCAA basketball world.
Dude, Todd, I told you.
Done.
Todd, I fucking told you yesterday, dude.
What was it? I missed.
Gonzaga lost.
They're out.
They're
out.
So it's just like every other year?
I would say everybody's bracket is probably even more fucked than it was.
Dude, all right. So we have Wednesday nights. Aaron is our show in the post. It's NCAA and NBA basketball. We cover Pacers, Cavs, Jazz, and Suns. And we were talking about NCAA tournament last night. And we're like, okay, I think they have it slated like really cool. Like, you know, they progressively get better. I think the worst game's going to be Gonzaga, Arkansas. And then after we said that, I looked at Todd and I said, dude, Arkansas is going to win now that we said that shit, isn't it? And they're like, well, here we fucking go. So,
this was the first year, I think, since I couldn't even tell you the first year I didn't do a bracket. I just had no grasp of NCAA basketball this year. And I don't know. There's no reason other than I just, I don't know why. Honestly, I actually do know exactly why. It's because the Cavs aren't in the lottery.
You're like, I don't need.
I was like, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah,
go Mobley.
No, it's fucking great. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the chat right now. Y'all are holding it down right now and doing a fucking fantastic job. So we love you guys, Rally Town Sports family. Keep it up.
Make my job tough. I'm trying to keep up here. Let's see. We knew it would be that type of year in NCAA basketball. Tez, you're absolutely right. And Ryan did vouch for you guys. You did say that yesterday.
We did.
Will came in with a football question. Getting back on topic here. The secondary in Cincinnati has to be good this year. Fewer come from behind victories. Opponents will be throwing more. Have we adjusted the D to account for the better offense in Cincy?
So, all right, let me try and break this down. Fewer come from behind victories. Okay, so have we adjusted the defense with the understanding that they're going to be protecting a lead more? Am I adjusted the account for the better offense in Cincy? I think that's how I'm reading that. Have we adjusted the defense to be a better team to protect the lead? So, how do you protect the lead? Well, more often than not, it means that the other team's going to be throwing the ball. They've secured Jesse Bates with a franchise tag. You still have Von Bell. You still have Cheeto. You still have Mike Hilton. And you still have Eli Apple. Now, are the Bengals going to go out and continue to address the secondary? Potentially, whether that be through the draft or whether that be through acquisitions and free agency like Stephon Gilmore.
Well, Corey, let me cut you off real quick. Maybe he's taking it from this perspective as Cincinnati's going to put a ton of points on the board, so teams are going to be throwing more to catch up. And maybe he's coming at it from that perspective as, is the secondary good?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's okay. No, yeah, I was following. Yeah, I was following, and I would say, yeah, and Ryan with a great comment right now. I said the way you protect a lead, you keep fucking scoring, and that's I mean, there is nothing better than to protect your defense than a good offense. And go ahead, Aaron.
I would say the other thing too is you got. The AFC North is playing the AFC East. So obviously Josh Allen, but outside of that, I mean, obviously I know Mac Jones showed stuff last year, but when you look at what the AFC has brought in this year, thank God we played the AFC West last year.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank God.
So we're not worried about that for another 3 years. And then you're looking at the NFC South where obviously
Tom
Brady comes back, great, but who else are you worried about there? So
no one.
You're worried about the division for sure. We still don't know. Obviously Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback, but he's not necessarily one that you're worried about throwing for 450 on you. It's all the other stuff he does, which is more linebackers and having athletic secondary guys who can do it.
You saw the change in the Cincinnati linebacking core because of guys like Nick Vigil.
Yeah,
like that's what like the play that Lamar broke out on, where he shook Nick Vigil or Vigil or however you say his fucking worthless name, and he shook him out of his shoes. And Lamar Jackson is here, everyone. Like it's his time. The Bengals have addressed that with Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson as their linebackers because of Lamar. And you saw what happened when the Bengals went to Baltimore week 3 and shut them the fuck down. That's why they.
But I'm not worried about Zach Wilson. I'm not worried about Tua, even with Hill. No. I'm not worried about Jameis. I'm looking at the opponents across the board, and you're looking at the division. I'm not worried about Mitch Trubisky twice a year. It's
Bobby's a Steelers fan, by the way. I don't think we addressed that.
No, but
we got 3 AFC North teams represented.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, guys. Fuck the Ravens.
Yeah, we can all agree. Yeah, fucking rat birds.
Common enemy.
No, but I mean, no offense, but Mitch Trubisky, there's a reason he had to sign as a backup last year.
No, but I honestly think that he can be served. Like he's better than Mason Rudolph. He's better than I think he can produce more than Big Ben did last year. I think the Steelers addressed some major concerns on the offensive line. The Steelers are going to be better next year. Let's be very clear about that. They're going to be a better team. So it is going to be a very competitive division. And it'll be, I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, you just talked about Tyreek Hill. Bobby, sorry to steal your spot, but here I'm going to segue into that.
No, you're good.
Let's get into that a little bit. Let's talk about Tyler Childers jumping in the chat. What's going on, buddy? Let's talk about that.
Tyler knows.
Yeah, Tyler knows. Fuck the Ravens. Let's talk a little bit about Tyreek going to Miami and what does this mean?
Shocking move. Everything was in place for him to have a deal restructured with KC up until Devonta Adams signed that monster contract in Vegas, to which I read an article where Drew Rosenhaus said, okay, Devonta Adams is getting this kind of money.
Yep.
I think Tyreek Hill's worth a little bit more cheese as well. So that's when a new
as he should. That's his fucking job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Tyreek Hill was quoted today in his press conference saying it was a tough decision. But when somebody throws that kind of money in your face, it's hard to say no.
And Drew Rosenhaus, which some of you guys know him just as literally the top agent in the NFL. Don't forget, Drew Rosenhaus is the agent that represented Terrell Owens when he was with the Eagles. Drew Rosenhaus is a guy that had Terrell Owens doing sit-ups in his fucking driveway with SportsCenter videotaping him while he's holding out. Look, I'm here. I'm working out. Fucking pay me, right? and that, I mean, this is the same agent, right?
Yeah,
So
I think what the Dolphins just did was leave no shadow of a doubt on the Tua situation, right? So I think all the quarterback carousel or musical chairs, if you want to say, have kind of set themselves. I don't think there's a quarterback out there right now that the Dolphins can take that I would rather have than Tua, and I only mean that from the potential standpoint, as well as the fact that this is not a great rookie quarterback class. So
sure.
if it's going to fall, it's going to fall, but you have Jalen Waddle on a rookie deal and you're paying Hill. And like we just said, as long as you're not paying a quarterback, the cap does not exist. So is it just a way to gather assets and the picks that they gave up, they still have their first next year. So if this all falls flat on its face, you're looking at maybe, CJ Stroud, Young from Alabama. It's the 2023 draft. I don't have more names for you.
You're good.
But point being is I do believe the consensus is that next year is going to be a better rookie class. So I think what the Dolphins just did was basically look at Tua and go, hey, man, if you can't do it with this, you're not the guy. And sometimes that's okay because what teams are, what GMs and what teams are designed to do is make their teams better. And we had kind of talked about Baker earlier. You can surround that guy with these players and they still can't succeed. Yeah. That's when you look to upgrade.
Yeah. And I honestly think that in terms of what the Dolphins are doing right now is don't forget, they also acquired Teron Armstead from the Saints free agent, probably the best left tackle that was in the draft.
Right.
Now, let's be clear, he is not blocking Tua's blind side as a left tackle. They are not going to move Teron Armstead to a right tackle position because that is not as easy as a lot of people like to make it out to be, shifting from left tackle to right tackle. So he's not going to be blocking the blind side. He's still obviously a key place there on the left side of the offensive line. So they are paying some decent contracts. Armstead, though, I would say a pretty decent deal for the Dolphins and what they got. I think there's some injury concerns. I think he had a hip injury coming out of New Orleans, so there's some concerns there with that. But one of the guys that I'm really wondering where he's going to land and where he fits is Jimmy Garoppolo. Where is he going to end up? I mean, all of the chips are falling into place, right? New Orleans has committed to sucking. They've signed Jameis Winston. The Colts have their guy. Atlanta is going with Felipe Franks, I guess. I don't know what the fuck they're doing there. The Dolphins are committing to Tua. The Giants have Daniel Jones and Tyrod. Where does Jimmy end up?
I mean, it seems like they're out of seats on the bus, and we still haven't gotten to the draft yet. And that whether it be the guy from Liberty, which his name's
Willis.
Willis. You got Pickett from Pittsburgh. You got, there's
Desmond
guys,
Ritter
from Cincy. There are guys out there that they're quarterbacks, right? So, and I think this year more than any, you're going to see quarterbacks fall, especially with the fact that a lot of guys seem to be set. Even guys like, I'm not sold on Zach Wilson, but the Jets aren't going to turn around and take a quarterback in the first round. You could maybe say the Giants have 2 first-round picks. I know they're not sold on Daniel Jones, but why would they go out and get a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo when they can get a rookie to fill that spot to come in and compete?
Matt Corral out of Ole Miss or something.
So to me, and you said Jimmy, and I know Baker's in the same situation, and I laugh hysterically when a week ago he's like, my preferred destination is the Colts, and it's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, no one, like, they don't want you. No one, like, you have no leverage, you have no control. Like, he honestly, Baker might end up being like what Trubisky was last year, where he's going to have to go somewhere to back up to get a starting job next year.
Yeah, and one team that is still in need of a quarterback, Seattle. Baker has recently expressed interest in Seattle, and I'm addressing one of the comments here. Where does Baker land? Could he be Kaepernicking in 2022? As from Will, and we're going to turn it over here to the comments. We're going to get you guys in a second. We had to move into the free agency aspect of the evening, but yeah, I think Seattle makes sense. I think there are some weapons there, but I've seen what Baker looks like with no offensive line. A couple, his rookie year, and I don't think that's a product for success. Obviously, the Browns missed the playoffs that year, but I think that might be the spot, right? That might be, Seattle expressed interest in Baker before the draft. They expressed interest in Baker after the draft. I think there's something there. Whether or not they can come to terms on what that deal looks like, I think is a big question too.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on what Seattle wants to do next year. I mean, when you trade a guy like Wilson, you're kind of going into the rebuild mode.
Yeah.
And do you want to just tank it out in that division? Even if you get a guy like Baker, you're looking at Stafford, you're looking at Kyler. Who knows what Trey Lance is going to do, or maybe it ends up being Jimmy. It's not gonna. But I could actually see a world where Jimmy G actually just stays in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But my point is, I think Seattle is almost content saying, let's just let Drew Lock do his thing. If we get the first pick,
we can fire Pete Carroll.
Yeah, is that the end of the world? So I get the Seattle one. Honestly, I'm looking at two teams, and Bobby, I'm curious your perspective on this.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Washington. That was so stupid to go grab Carson Wentz so early.
For what they gave up, too.
Because honestly, I think Baker to Washington would have made so much sense. And I think they could have got him for a lot less had they just held out for a little bit. Now,
it's the same quarterback.
I don't think it would happen because I think the Browns would rather just eat the contract and wait for somebody to roll an ankle and trade him before the trade deadline and just say, hey, go home. We'll pay you. But you don't want to come in the building. We don't want you to come in the building. We're going to wait for the right situation. Kind of like the Ben Simmons situation with the Sixers, where it's like, well, let's just play a game of chicken until
one of us blanks. Yeah,
exactly. And I trust Barry. Barry's got a lot more balls than Baker does. He's just a lot more quieter about it.
Where he's going with this is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly. Would you rather have Baker than Trubisky?
I don't think Baker fits the Pittsburgh mold. I think Mitch is a better fit, honestly.
Because he kisses titties.
No, he loves titties.
I'm just kidding. I am curious about that because I actually do think that would be a decent fit for where you're at right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying I would be opposed to it. But the one thing I've learned over the years of being a Steelers fan is when they make a choice, they commit, and they're not going to bring Mr. Trubisky in and just throw him to the wayside.
That being said,
they're going to give him his opportunity to play.
That being said, Mike Tomlin last night,
Malik Willis, I heard this. Yeah,
he was at no. Last night he was at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse, a very prominent steakhouse in Cincinnati, with none other than Desmond Ridder, amongst other University of Cincinnati Pro Day participants. But yeah, he was there with Desmond Ridder, and they watched Desmond Ridder today. The Titans, another team that watched Desmond Ridder play today at his Pro Day. The Titans are in on a quarterback, guys. No one's chalking them up as a QB need, but I think what the Titans are recognizing, Titans, another team that we try and cover here on Line Again. The Titans are a team that are recognizing that Tannehill ain't it. Literally the first play in the divisional round, interception. Tannehill is almost regressing to a, dare I say, Dalton-esque type level of play, where it's not awful. Like, don't get me wrong, Andy Dalton is not a bad quarterback. Like, Dalton is better than.
But I know what you mean. Like,
he's better than Drew Lock. He can.
Yeah, no, totally. But I get exactly what you mean. Where it's, hey, great, we went 11-5, and
you ain't winning a Super Bowl.
Can't get out of the first round.
Yeah, you're in the weakest division in the AFC, and you can't win a Super Bowl. That's the way it's going to work. And like Dalton should start in this league. If you put him apples to apples against every other quarterback, he's better than at least one of them, right? I think there's a few guys. Drew Lock is currently the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, but what about so do you take Dalton over Jimmy G or Baker?
So Baker is on the Browns right now. So no, I don't. I don't take
Yeah,
Dalton
but I'm
over
saying so fill in the blanks of the guys.
Right.
Who are,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying. So
once the shuffle happens, sure, and that's the reason he's not a starting quarterback is because of where contracts lie and where he's at, and all of these things, right? So I understand why he isn't, but what I mean is talent level versus a specific starting quarterback. Yes, but I hear you. So yeah, I lost where I'm going with this one, but the Steelers are in on a quarterback, the Titans are in on a quarterback, and I think. It's going to be interesting on draft day, and we're going to have a lot of fun with draft day, and it'll be a great show. But it's going to get hairy.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers have the 20th pick, so it's not. Mike Tomlin's meeting with quarterbacks just in case they fall. I don't know. I don't know if both of those options get there at 20.
Desmond Ritter will be there at 20, 100%. 100%. Yep. No, I don't think there's many teams willing to invest a first-round pick on Desmond Ritter. He's an American Conference football player. While Malik Willis is also not a Power 5 conference football player, the numbers he put up makes Desmond Ritter's numbers look silly. The form that he has, the quick release that he has, the mechanics that he has with the football are light years above anybody else in the draft. He is the best quarterback in this draft. Yeah. It's just not even a question. Honestly, if I'm the Lions, how the fuck do you pass on that? How do you pass? Even if you're going to bench him a year, even if you plan on doing that, how do you pass? Is Aiden Hutchinson really worth missing on a quarterback? Is a pass rusher really worth missing on a quarterback? How often do you get to this point? Draft. How often do you get to this point?
I think the Lions are more than a quarterback away, and I just 100%. think this is one of the worst quarterback classes in a while, and I think the Lions are already. You're not going to be able to move that Goff contract anyway. You brought that first round pick in to take that contract anyway, so I'm using that first round pick to build a position like we had said earlier. There's quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, and defensive end.
Yeah,
I'm going to take one of those guys on a rookie deal for 5 years. That is going to give me the best value over that time. And then I'm going to try to strike for quarterback next year because I'm probably in the top 7 anyway.
So I want to talk about this as well as we continue to trudge this evening. I know we had talked about doing some wide receiver stuff later tonight, but it just based on the time that we're looking at, it's just not going to happen. But I love where the chat's going. Bobby, do we want to try and trudge through some chat before I get into the last free agency guy that I want to talk about?
Yeah, we can get back into it. Will said, enjoy it while it lasts in Cincy. Imagine the cost of keeping the rookies in Cincy when their initial contracts are up. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the points that Corey alluded to earlier, but yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll address that. The Bengals are restructuring Joe Burrow's contract after this season. He's eligible to be restructured after 3 years. The Bengals are going to do that. It's not a Baker situation where you got to continue to feel it out kind of thing, which is what I think the Browns felt for a myriad of reasons. It wasn't just football play, like Aaron alluded to earlier. Baker rubbed the media in Cleveland the wrong way from a very early point. He was not a super agreeable person. Also, I think Baker made a lot of selfish decisions in terms of what he was about Baker. Look how many fucking commercials this guy was in, guys. Like Baker was about Baker, and that's fine. I'm not.
It's your money, man.
It is exactly. That's what I'm saying. I said this 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Aaron Rodgers. We made the point: should Aaron have taken a lesser contract to extend Devontae? Who the fuck are we to say that you shouldn't take $50 million a year? Like that's $50 million a year, right? Are you going to turn down $20 million to make that a $30 million contract so that you can go get Devontae Adams? I'm not going to tell you to light $20 million on fire. I won't do that. So it's Baker's money. I get that. I'm just saying from an organizational standpoint, GM hat on, if I'm looking at a guy that is valuing himself more than a team, am I going to invest in him upright after 3 years? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to let it play out. I'm going to bet that he fails. That's what they did. That's what the Browns did. They bet that Baker was going to fail, and they were correct.
I don't think that they were going to bet that he was going to fail. It was wait and see. It was. I don't think. Here's the thing.
But that's what you're doing, right?
But the commercials don't mean dick if you win. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and like we had said, there was an 8-week stretch in 2020 where Baker did show himself to have the potential to be a top 10 quarterback. Sure. And I totally agree with that. But that wasn't enough to get a contract. That wasn't enough. And Burrow just went to the Super Bowl. It's totally different. The other thing I will say about and again, I'm sorry, I didn't see who it was that made the comment, but about the Bengals better enjoy it because the rookies are going to cost something someday. We're about to see $113 billion worth of television money come into the league next year, as opposed to
going up.
$27 billion was the last TV deal.
Yeah.
So that's like 4 times the amount of money. And here's the other thing that I actually wanted to mention, and I'm just going to do a circle back here when we were talking about Deshaun earlier. Andrew Berry basically just told the rest of the league to go fuck himself. Everyone's making a big deal about this all guaranteed money thing. Every single quarterback worth his salt is going to ask for that now. And we got the first one, which means it'll be the cheapest.
It'll be the cheapest, which is exactly why the Bengals are going to restructure Joe Burrow next year.
Exactly.
It's exactly why they're going to do it. That they put that money on the table. The Bengals are going to do it ahead of time, which is exactly why the Chiefs did it too with Patrick Mahomes. That's what smart GMs do. And if you've seen what Duke Tobin has done over the last couple of years, who is the vice president of players personnel, the Bengals don't have a GM, quote unquote. Yes, they do. Is Duke Tobin. He is going to restructure Joe Burrow after the season. He's going to give him a fully guaranteed contract. And then guess what's going to happen? The Bengals are going to need a free agent deal, and they're going to restructure Joe Burrow into $25 million into a signing bonus. They're going to free up cap space. Why? Because Joe Burrow wants to win. That's what he's going to do. The Bengals are going to say, yep, we're going to front load you with money because we know that if you're here, we're going to sell season tickets, which the Bengals have almost sold out the entire stadium with season tickets after the season. They're going to sell a shit ton of jerseys, and they're going to make that money back. It's an investment on your future. So again, the salary cap is a myth. The Bengals understand what they have. They have a fucking unicorn in Joe Burrow, similarly to Brady, Wilson, Mahomes, Watson, all of these guys that are at the top of their game, that are at heads and shoulders above the rest of the league. I said this last week on the show, Aaron. There has never been more parity in the league in terms of quarterback play. When you look at the top 10 and the bottom 10, there's a bunch of fucking guys in the middle, and there's a bunch of guys that are amazing, or there's a few guys that are amazing, and there's a few guys that fucking suck, and they shouldn't be starting quarterbacks in the league.
I think there's a lot of, I would say there's a lot of middle ground parity. I always think it is a tiered system because I think the wind changes direction every week. You can say Burrow is better than X, and then 3 weeks later we're saying the other thing because we're such a reactionary league and we live in such an on-demand culture that everyone wants to change everything in 2-day shipping. You know what I mean? Like it's like so my only thing is I think
Stuart, thanks for liking the video, man.
I think people throw around things, and I used to top 10, and that's totally fine, but I think people throw around phrases like top 5 quarterback all the time. It's like, okay, great. Name them then. Because I don't agree with you on the Burrow part that he's this top, like Mahomes. I put Josh Allen in there. I put Herbert above Burrow personally. Wow. But again, I think it's a tiered thing, right? I think Burrow is in tier 2, and I think tier 2 is still top 10 probably still. I still think that puts you in the top 10.
That's interesting.
But I don't say 7 is better than 8. I say you're in this group or that group.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I'm gonna skip past the Herbert is better than Burrow comment for right now, just because I've had a lot of Woodford. I'm gonna skip
maybe
past
I'll come back on and defend that later.
Maybe no, you're fucking coming back.
He's like, no, you're fucking gone with that comment.
You coming back, boy?
No, and that's honestly, I think that's a personal preference thing. It's how are you building your team? I think they're two different.
Here's what I will say about Herbert. When you look at pure arm strength and athleticism, I think Herbert is like engineered in a lab. He is disgustingly good at throwing the ball with ease, very far, very accurately. When it comes to the things that you build a franchise around, Joe Burrow is better at Herbert than that. He is magnetic. He is somebody that that people gravitate to. You don't necessarily know why you love Joe Burrow so much because he's not flashy. He's not somebody that's just going to be electric on paper. That's not what he is. But when you watch him, you know this is that fucking motherfucker. This is that shiesty bitch. This is that Joey. He is that motherfucker, and he just that's it. You watch him and you know, and it's that's the difference, right? It's like when you watch Andrew Luck, he wasn't crazy, but you just watch him. He didn't have crazy bomb it out arm strength, but he was so fucking good. Here's it. I haven't done it yet for the people. Yeah,
those guys bringing in sidecars. I'm out. I'm just kidding. No, what is that? Is that Janelle in the chat there? I think made a good point too, where he said
Tez.
Tez. So,
Janelle,
I think they're both. I think they're both. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. This is my first time on. I'm still learning the ropes.
He's new here.
I appreciate you having me. But I think it makes a great point.
Just know that I'm going to start calling you Janelle.
I'm so fucking sorry, dude. No, it's. I think it is really hard to tell between the two right now. Again, personal preference. I that's why I'm saying it's a tier thing. I really do think they're in the same class.
Sure.
That's it.
I do want to get to a hot take. Ryan just came in with a comment. He said Burrow is also a recruiter. I mean, that's you can't pay that. You can't teach that. Joey B is a guy that's going to get guys to come and play for him, just like the greats like Tom Brady. People want to go play with him and get a ring.
It's because of that magnetic personality as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan said, as much as I hate the Steelers, Trubisky isn't a bad fit there, and I think he will have his best season. Oh, well, we're going to quote you on that, Ryan, and we're going to
Corey, thanks for liking the video, man.
We're going to follow up on this later.
Hold on, I just want to comment on that. So Trubisky's best season is losing in the first round of the playoffs. I just want to put that out there.
Are you talking about the Nickelodeon MVP? That's hardware, baby.
It's slime time, baby.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I have nothing against Mitch. I think he's a really, really good athlete. I think we have seen it before. I even want to say like a Nick Foles kind of, but keep in mind that guy won the Super Bowl where it's like, he kind of went away, where I just don't think he should have been a starter right away, where everyone wants to throw guys. He's the third pick in the draft. So you're not
quarterback taken.
You're not taking reps in practice. I think he got thrown out to the Wolves too quick, and we see that happen all the time. I still think there's talent in that arm.
He did also play for the Bears, so
who were a playoff contender.
They were. He took that shit offense of Matt Nagy to the playoffs twice.
I'm not saying anything against Mitch as much as I'm saying I think we can all agree he's the worst quarterback in the division.
I would agree with that. But also he's a double doink away from winning a playoff game.
Yeah, that's right? Fine. I don't think he's got
a lot to prove. He's got a lot to prove this year. Obviously backing up Josh Allen last year. My hope as a Steelers fan is he comes out with a chip on his shoulder and wants to prove the world that he's a starter and not a backup.
And I would say honestly, in terms of like you look at what you have around them, when you look at running game, like Nick Chubb is the best running back in the division. He's 1A. I think Joe Mixon is 1B, and then I would say that Najee Harris is B, or 2, right? Najee Harris it's 1A, 1B, and 2, in my opinion. Joe Mixon has never had the offensive line that Nick Chubb has had over the last 2 years. He's got it now, and I think that is something that
Najee Harris didn't have it either.
He didn't. But Najee Harris also was the leading receiver for the Steelers over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
so.
And they were also,
last season.
No offense to how Ben was playing last year. It was, hey, this guy has to take 22 touches a game. For this offense.
Absolutely. It's going to be. I think with
what he does this year.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm biased. Of course, I think Nick Chubb's the best in the division. But he really is.
He's one of the best running backs in the league.
One of my favorite running backs in the league, honestly.
Yeah, I try to draft him in my fantasy league every year. I drafted him when he was a rookie in my fantasy league, and man, he just ate every game. It was amazing. I loved it.
Nick Chubb is exactly what you want out of a football player who is just, I am very, very, very good. Here's the ball, ref. Thank you for the touchdown.
Yep.
Like, I'm done. I
You don't hear
talk.
shit about him.
And the one thing I'll say too is, the Browns brought in the equivalent of that at receiver with Amari Cooper, who is he doesn't talk. He is, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do my business. I'm going to hand the ball to the ref. I'm going to go to the bench. And I love that. Those are the kind of football players I want, especially now that we have, the Deshaun circus in town.
Their
All right,
favorite.
we got to get to Stuart's comment. This is a bite right here.
Boy.
That is a long one. All right,
we got to get on this.
I'm my glasses.
Tez,
go ahead and read it.
I do see your comment about Rodgers, but Rodgers is never going to win because he's not gonna take the money that is necessary to win. Stuart coming in. Be interested in your collective thoughts on Bengals working a sign-in trade with Bates to the Giants for either their 5th or 7th plus a 36th or 67th pick. Swing that with their own picks, and the Bengals could potentially walk away with a combination of Stingley or Jordan Davis, Kaiir Elam, Lewis Sin.
Yeah, Kaiir Elam, the one of the top 5 corners in the draft at the University of Florida.
And another top prospect. It'd be a benefit of not only establishing a succession plan for the Bengals' older defensive players, but with the rookie contracts and not spending $14+ million on Bates, provide the cap flexibility to maintain the offensive core moving forward. What a comment.
No, I think Stuart, welcome to the fucking family, bro. You are right in the right place. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Have we consulted the Jimmy Johnson chart, though? If that is good.
So here's what I'm going to say initially, and Aaron, I'm interested from an outside perspective. A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. That's honestly how I feel about this. Jesse Bates is a top 5 safety. That.
Yeah, I mean, picks. I can tell you from a completely inside perspective of being a Browns fan forever, picks are worth nothing. They're great to talk about for 9 months and everything like that, but you got to hit on those picks. I agree with you. You take the proven commodity every time.
Yeah, Jesse Bates, I mean, for what it's worth, Jesse Bates had a really bad first 6 games to start the season, really poor. And I think that's what the Bengals front office is kind of leaning on, to not give him the highest guaranteed contract in safety history. I honestly think that Jesse Bates might have had one of the best postseasons that we've seen in a long time. And I'll reflect back on that. First game, he didn't have an interception against the Raiders. Second game against the Steelers, against the Titans, first play of the game, he had an interception. AFC Championship game, he tips the ball out of Tyreek Hill's hands into Von Bell's hands. End of the first half of the Super Bowl, Jesse Bates picks off Matt Stafford to keep the Bengals within 3 going into the half. And he had an absolute stellar run leading up to the postseason, not just that. Had a great game against the Chiefs in Week 17 as well. Jesse Bates is that good. He is that good. And the Bengals drafted him, I believe, in the 3rd round out of Wake Forest. And the thing about these guys that you draft in these mid-tier rounds out of these, Wake Forest is a Power 5 school, right? They're out of the ACC. Nikki, thank you for following. Welcome, new follower. Everybody, cheers. Thank you, Nikki. We're gonna get followers get a cheer. Followers get a cheer. There we go. New follower. So I think when you draft these guys out of these like lower schools, like Wake Forest is not a football school. They're not a basketball school. They're an academic school, right? Basically. When you draft these guys out of these schools in these mid rounds and they continuously get better and better, it honestly, it means that you've struck gold because they haven't hit their peak yet. Similar to a guy like Kappa, the guard that the Bengals just signed out of Tampa. He went to Humboldt State. Humboldt is a fucking small town in the middle of fucking nowhere, Iowa, and that's where Alex Kappa went to college.
I wish you had asked us guess what state that was, because I have no idea.
It is the only reason I know that is because I'm in logistics. It is a small fucking town, and he went to this small school, but people saw his talent. They brought him into a team, and he keeps getting better. So when you locate these kind of guys that come out of these smaller programs that they just shine, you know that they haven't capped out yet. They just haven't had the development around them to make them what they are. And Jesse Bates, honestly, is that kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question.
Ryan said, "Holy shit, Stuart! I'll give you a glass of my Eagle Rare for that comment." I think Aaron and I both laughed at that when it came in the chat.
I saw you do the same. I did. Yeah.
Ram said, or Tez said, "My Rams, fuck them picks."
My Rams. No, that's honestly what the Rams just says. Like, we're gonna mortgage our future for like 2 Super Bowls.
Here's the thing, though: the Rams have done a very, very good job of hitting on picks in the middle round. So if you're very confident in your drafting ability,
Van Jefferson,
like we said, grab the proven commodity.
Yeah,
it's fair. It's fair. Van Jefferson is one of them. I mean,
and you really can't knock it because it worked.
It has worked. It has worked. I mean, they went out and got Andrew Whitworth when the Bengals weren't ready to pay him, and albeit that was when the Rams were still working towards becoming what they are, but went out and got Von Miller. Obviously, they drafted Aaron Donald in the 3rd round. I mean, the Rams have done things that have. Think about that. All 32 teams passed on Aaron Donald at least twice.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's disgusting.
Don't you hate your team because of that?
But you know what's funny? You go back to the Corey. We were there. The Bowling Green Pittsburgh Little Caesars bowl game in Detroit. Shout out to Rome.
Yo, Rome.
It was James Conner and Aaron Donald, and I remember the whole game. We were like, "Damn, who are those guys?"
Man, that big motherfucker in the middle is strong.
Yeah, he's destroying us, and man, we can't stop this running back.
Yeah. Right. Corey came in. Sorry I was late. But do you believe Deshaun Watson will be suspended any games this year? Tez came in and said shouldn't be suspended, but we'll see what the NFL does. Aaron touched on it earlier. We can recap it real quick.
I mean, I touched on it. I personally, if I had to guess, I would say yes, that he will. What number of games that is, I don't know. I think all 3 of us could probably agree that the NFL is extremely inconsistent when it comes to this stuff. So I could venture a guess, but it's no more than just doing that. So frankly, I would say yes, more than likely. If I had to wager on it, I would say 6 games. It could be 4, it could be the season, it could be, again, I think the NFL is very inconsistent to the point where there isn't really something you can point to and say yes. I mean, look at Calvin Ridley, for instance. He's suspended for the year for gambling on sports. I think we can all agree that what Deshaun Watson is accused of doing is worse than what Ridley did. And even though I think Deshaun Watson would get less games than what Ridley got.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL is notorious, and you said earlier, for even if legal action isn't sought against a certain player, the NFL will still hand down some form of punishment. Whether that's going to be a 6-game suspension, like 2 or 3 games, or maybe even 8. I don't. It's tough, man. With him being basically acquitted of all the charges, I don't know if the NFL takes a stance where, he's been through enough. He's already sat out a season and a half. We'll just let it slide, or if they go ahead and hand him another.
Well, the reason the NFL didn't do anything last year was because the Texans just were like, well, we're not going to play him. So the NFL was like, great, we don't even have to touch this with a 20-foot pole. And the one thing I do want to touch on real quick is something that I think has been really, really overblown is that the Browns have structured his contract to where he's not losing money. I think he's like $1 million of actual salary this year.
Yep.
We had mentioned this earlier. Really, all you're doing is, the salary cap is about to change. Is some of that have to do with he might get suspended potentially? But Andrew Berry consistently does this with all of his contracts. So I think it's just kind of one of those things that the media has grabbed onto and say, oh, wow, look, he's only going to get $1 million taken away from him if he does get suspended. No, yeah. Andrew Berry does this with every single contract he hands out.
Yeah, absolutely. And a correction on Aaron Donald, he was the 13th pick in the 2014.
Oh, wow. My bad.
So I would have been sincerely shocked if that statement was actually true.
I honestly thought he was like a.
Yeah, you were so confident. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
I honestly thought I
rolled
heard
with
that.
it. I kind of just rolled with it. You rolled in there with a lot of confidence, my man.
It shows you what I can do with confidence. It's how I got my wife. I told her, this is who I am, and she bought it.
Yeah. No, I was there.
Lucky you.
It's actually true. It's actually true. Aaron was there when I met my wife.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But yeah, we were just talking about Deshaun Watson and just recapping that. But Chat, do you guys have any other questions for us this evening? We're kind of getting to the point in the show where we're going to start wrapping things up.
I do want to talk about one more move and kind of the impact and chat, by all means, please. Open air's up next, so please drop your discussion topics into the chat. But before we move into that, I do want to talk about one more major move that we haven't addressed tonight, and it's a move that really impacts the AFC South in a massive way, as to so much so that we don't know who the best team in the AFC South is right now. Matt Ryan has saved his career, in my opinion, and moved to Indianapolis. Not only that, the Indianapolis Colts have flipped Carson Wentz for Matt Ryan and only gave up a third-round pick to do so. Aaron, I'm really interested in this move and what your thoughts are on this move and Indianapolis as a team moving forward.
I mean, I don't really think Matt Ryan is the kind of quarterback that really gets you there anymore. I get the move. I think they're, there were a lot, and I know I've touched on the Browns part of this where, they were in the Deshaun sweepstakes and they somehow won it. The Colts were one of those teams that wanted to be in it as well, and the Texans said, no, you're in our division. And I believe they had said there are 11 teams that had made offers and only 4 the Texans agreed to. I actually think the Texans handled that perfectly and said, we got to agree to your package before you can even talk to our guy. But to the Ryan point, listen, I still think he's got some juice left, some gas left in the tank. I think they have they're the same as the Browns, where it's the roster is built around everything but the quarterback. I don't really think when you look at all of the quarterbacks that came into the AFC, I just don't really think that they're going to get there. Who do you guys know off the top of your head who the AFC South plays this year for the AFC? Is it the West?
I can look it up right now at the Colts the Colts upcoming schedule.
Because or actually, I think we play the East, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
East
it would make sense that they play each other. So I'm guessing that they play each other then with the West. Do you think Matt Ryan is going to beat Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson? Yeah, I mean, they'll probably win some games, and all they have to do is be competitive in that division. But all I'm going to tell you is I don't see more than one team coming out of that division, and I personally would take the Titans over the Colts.
Yeah, and I can understand the out of divisional matchups I'm looking at right now. So here's who will travel to Indianapolis to face on the Indianapolis Colts and Matt Ryan. Pittsburgh, the Chiefs, the Chargers, Eagles, and the Washington Commanders. So out of that, I would say they can beat the Steelers, they can beat the Eagles, they can beat the Washington Commanders. Those are the teams outside of their division that are going to travel there. Obviously, I think that they can beat Houston. I think they can beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville obviously looking to take a major step forward. They spent a lot of money this offseason and looking to take a major step forward. So we'll see where that shakes out. They travel on the road to New England, on the road to Denver, on the road to Las Vegas, Dallas, the New York Football Giants, and the Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Plexiglass Cousins. And yeah, I can see where that schedule looks a little rough. One thing I will say is that Matt Ryan is going to have what he hasn't ever had, a top 5 running back. I think Michael Pittman Jr. is going to come on in a big way, and I think there is potential. You mentioned Landry restructuring to go back to Cleveland. I think Jarvis Landry would be an amazing fit in Indianapolis. I think he would be a perfect fit for Matt Ryan, somebody that can get open for him, and while Michael Pittman Jr. stretches the field. So when I look at that division and I look at the AFC South, we've said this over and over again. It's a quarterback's league. Who's better, Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill? That's what it boils down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think the margin there is a lot closer. So I I think Tannehill's actually a pretty solid quarterback, or like we were saying earlier, I think he's a pretty good regular season quarterback. Can Derrick Henry stay healthy? They, traditionally through the NFL, guys at the running back position who get the ball that much do not hold up. This would be a year that, from a fantasy perspective, I probably wouldn't touch him just because I'm worried about the tread on the tires. But I also really, really like Vrabel as a coach. And I don't know. I think it's pretty close between those two. But what I do believe is only one of those teams will make the playoffs. There's no wild card team coming out of that division. You either have to win that division or you're done. I think the North is too stacked, and obviously the West. I mean, you could say 3 teams, are going to make the playoffs from that division. So really, there's only so many seats at the table. And I think Matt Ryan gives them a fighter's chance of winning that division. I don't think Matt Ryan gives them a fighter's chance to even make the AFC Championship game.
I'm not sold in on Russell Wilson still. I know that he is. I'm not even saying Wilson. You talk about Adams to the like. I actually think the Raiders are. I just think 3 teams can come out of that division. I agree with you though. I think Wilson is past his peak. He's regressing, but at the same time, I've also think we've seen the best out of Derek Carr. I don't think do you think Derek Carr is going to be elevated? I think Devontae Adams is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but Deshaun Watson also got beat by Brandon Allen with DeAndre Hopkins as his wide receiver. So, and Deshaun Watson is infinitely better than Derek Carr. So there's only so much that a top tier wide receiver can do for you when your quarterback play is not necessarily there. Or the rest of the pieces rather around there. Let's not forget that Houston lacked a running game for most of the time that Deshaun was there. The last good running back was Arian Foster, and offensive line. So I'm not sold on Derek Carr, and I'm not sold on Russell Wilson. But I do think that two teams in the AFC West will make the playoffs. I think 2 teams out of the AFC North will make the playoffs. And from there, you're literally looking at one more wild card team. And where is that going to come from? Is it going to be the South, right?
It could be the Patriots. I mean, like Mac Jones had a really good year last year. They're always in the running. Bill Belichick.
Could be the Dolphins.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying I think the South – well, I was going to say I think the South is the worst division in the AFC, but I don't know that I can stand back by that with the Jets. And I don't know. But my point is I think the North and the West are going to be the teams that eat up those wild cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey said, I think the move was smart because I believe Ryan is a huge upgrade from Carson Wentz. I don't think you're going to have anybody here disagree with you.
No.
I think that's a great comment. I think both things can be true, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tez came back in on the Deshaun Watson situation. If they suspend him, the NFLPA will definitely appeal. He will continue to play after the appeal. Say he gets 4 games initially, they'll most likely give him half of whatever they gave him after the appeal, but honestly don't think he will get anything more than 2 games because he's already missed a lot of games. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. He's missed a ton. They may give him some leniency. He's basically sat out almost 2 seasons.
Hold on. Deshaun Watson didn't miss because of what he did off the field. That's not why Deshaun Watson didn't play.
Oh, that's right. He sat out.
No, Deshaun Watson sat out because he didn't want to play for the fucking Houston Texans. Let's be very clear about that.
But because Houston left him at home, the NFL didn't feel the need that they had to step in. They could have came in and suspended him, but they were like, well, that's already being handled. I think it's a good comment. The only thing I will say from the standpoint of the Browns is you can appeal the games. That's fine, but you risk losing that. And then you're missing games in the middle of the season rather than the start.
Yep.
So you might just say it's kind of like like the Brady with the Deflategate thing. There were no crimes committed, but he still got suspended games. We've seen this happen before where people aren't criminally charged and they're still suspended.
Yeah.
So if the NFL is going to say you're suspended X number of games, is it easier to just take it at the beginning or risk losing games in a playoff run? You know what I mean? Like, how long is that appeal process going to take? Right. Now you're missing divisional games. If it's like a 2-game suspension, you might just take it on the nose and say, let Jacoby hand the ball up to Chubb 30 times.
I mean, if it's 2 games, you eat that and call it a day. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that, even Deshaun Watson.
It's 4 games. Just take it.
Yeah, you still eat it. Yeah, you still got 13 games left, so plenty of time to make up ground. Ryan said Cordell Patterson is a Hall of Fame running back. LOL.
Hey man, good out of him last year. He helped a lot of people out in fantasy.
I mean, he's reinvigorated his career. To be honest with you, he was kind of that Taysom Hill fantasy player where you could plug him in as a wide receiver and be another running back. So good on him.
Some combo players.
Yeah, love it.
Absolutely. Well, chat, do you guys have anything else for us this evening as far as comment wise? You guys have been absolutely amazing tonight.
Yeah, this has been great, guys. You guys got a great following, asking great questions. This has been a lot of fun.
No, it's been, I mean, the chat has been lit. It's lit. I mean, you guys have been amazing. I will say, chat, if you love Aaron having Aaron on the show, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Let's convince him to keep coming back to Rally Tal Sports. Honestly, I think you just scratch the surface with it when it comes to his football knowledge. Where the value is really going to come in is we get him on In the Post. The basketball knowledge is far superior to anything I have. So it would be amazing.
I'm glad. I mean, like I told you before, man. You call me off the bench. I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go. He's Andre Iguodala. He's ready to go. 6th man of the year.
Absolutely. All right. Absolutely. Well, chat, we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Aaron, thank you for joining us. We will catch you guys next Tuesday for our town hall. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the second portion of your NCAA fixings this year. Hopefully your brackets aren't too effed. I know all 3 of mine are absolutely disgusting at this point. But Aaron is dope other than calling me Janelle.
That's on me. I got to learn.
Yeah,
no, I really do. I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun.
All right, chat. We will see you guys Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next time.